It's a perfect segue into welcoming back Natalie Thorsen. If you were here last year, you might remember her presentation at community meeting, and she's back to talk to us about equity, inclusion, diversity. Please welcome Natalie. She's coming on up.
All right, fantastic. I wanted to make sure my remote would work. I've never really used it from this far away. I got a little bit nervous. Hello, everyone. Fantastic. I am here today hoping to give folks some thoughts and ideas about how to interrupt and challenge discrimination with love and compassion. And I think that's a really important key piece. I've been leaning into that lately, and I would like to open that space up to think about that with y'all. The first thing that I want to do is actually go over some group agreements. And I have this sort of shattered up, shielded heart here. And for me, what group agreements are about is creating a space where none of us leave more hurt than we came in. All right, so I'm going to have you doing some shares with folks, and I want these agreements to apply for the time that we're together. So the first thing that I'd like to ask is that we work to respect each other in the space, respect each other's ideas and opinions. I also want to lean into risk. I loved hearing about people's failures. I love hearing about what people learn from their failures. I think that is such an amazing space. But you cannot actually fail if you never take the risk, right? That piece of being scared, that piece of pushing yourself into that fear. So being willing to take that risk, being open to one another's thoughts and ideas, being open to the thoughts and ideas that I will be sharing with y'all. Being willing to name ouches if they should occur. When does a person say ouch? When you get hurt, fantastic. If you're 5 years old and you're getting picked on at the playground and you go to the adult who's taking care of you, and you're sad and you're crying, what is the first thing that adult's probably going to do for you? Yeah? Is that what's going to happen for real? If a 5-year-old comes to you because you're sad and because you're crying, what do you do for them? Comfort, ask what happened, give them a hug. I see some people showing the shape of a hug, right? Okay, so now let's move into the responses. I think some of those that we got the first time around. What happens if you're 17 years old? Somebody's picking on you and you're sad and you're crying. And you go to the adult who's taking care of you. I think we tend to hear things like, suck it up, get over it, grow up, stop acting like a baby. Has anyone ever been told to stop acting like a baby? I would guess probably everyone in the room. What I would like to actually encourage people to do here today, I'm going to ask you to act more like a baby. I'm going to tell you why, right? In thinking about the speeches that we heard, the senior speeches, babies are inquisitive. Babies do things that scare them all the time. They're kind of delighted by being scared, right? If you've ever watched a baby that engages in new and exciting things, they're kind of scared, but they still want to do it. Babies like to learn. Babies like hugs. Babies speak their needs, right? What would it be like if you all, as young people who are on that cusp of becoming adults, of letting go of all of this beautiful space that you have as youth to become adults, what would that mean and what would that look like if you embraced more of your inner baby? I don't think that's something that we get encouraged to do very frequently, but I think it's a really good thing. So that if ouch moments happen, we can actually name them and be heard because they make us sick. They break our hearts, literally and figuratively. All right, so making space for that. Participation is great. Passing is always okay. I'm actually going to ask folks if you can, when I have you do the pair shares, to try and participate. Try it on. I think it can feel weird to do. I was actually told the last time around when I was here that it was surprising that y'all participated in the speak and pair shares that I had you do, and I felt very special that y'all engaged that, so I hope that you're able to do it again, because apparently that doesn't always happen. People don't always lean into that. Phones, if you have one, put it on silent, you're in school and stuff. Education exploration, we're all gonna teach each other, we're all gonna learn from each other. Shift back, shift up. Again, when you're in that pair share, make sure that you're not taking up all the airtime. Speak for yourself, share your own stories. That goes with confidentiality. If somebody shares something with you, a story about themselves, please keep that story sacred. I had a friend who shared an experience that she had in a small seminar in graduate school, and she was in another state 3 months later. And somebody found out where she went to school, and they said, "Oh, you wouldn't believe this story I heard about a woman in your program." And they started telling her the story that she had shared in confidence. Has anyone ever had something like that happen to you? How did it feel? Bad. I see a lot of thumbs down, a lot of sad faces, right? Let's not do that to each other. And I think all of those are actually pieces of community, right? This is how we build community. Stay focused on what we can do and what we can change. And last but not least, hoping to have a little bit of fun. So, with that said, we're going to try this on. All right? So the first thing that I would like to ask folks to do is look at the cute frog. Get that all out of your system. It is really cute. I put it up there on purpose. All right. So I want you to, I'm going to give you about fantastic. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. Talk to the person next to you. I want you to see if you can define love. What is love? What does it feel like? All right. I know that was really short, but I'm going to call everyone back. All right. And if you didn't get a chance to share it all out, that's okay. I just want you to think about it. Think about what it feels like. Next one. What is compassion? Think about a time when you felt compassion towards someone who had a different experience than yours, right? So we're just going to do this silently for a second. I want you to think about that. When have you felt compassion towards someone? Dig deep if it's hard to find. I know it's there. Just thinking right now. All right, again, I want you to check in. What did that compassion feel like? Talk to your partner, 20 or 30 seconds. Go. All right. Go ahead and find a stopping point and wrap that up, please. Nice work, everyone. All right, we're just going to think about this one for a moment. So I'm trying to connect some dots here. What makes it hard to be compassionate and loving with a person that you see discriminating against others or being mean to someone else? What makes it hard to hold on to those feelings you were just thinking about and considering, those feelings of love, those feelings of compassion? What makes it hard to hold those feelings when it comes to interrupting discrimination and oppression? I'll give you a few seconds to think about that silently. Now I want, if you haven't already gone there, maybe you have already, I want you to think about a time when you failed at being loving or compassionate, when it came to interrupting somebody who discriminated against or was mean to others. And the thing that I believe that folks in this room, what I know about the Sonoma Academy community, I think that all of you have at some point interrupted a wrongdoing. Because I think you're good people. I think you're being socialized to make that positive social change, right? That's what I believe. That's what I trust. So, what has made it hard to do that interrupting with love and compassion? When you think about a time when you failed, turn to your partner, 30 seconds. What made it hard to be loving and compassionate in that situation? All right, go ahead and wrap that up, please. So I want you to hold on to that thinking, because I want you to consider, when has someone shown you compassion when you've discriminated against or been mean to someone else? As much as I believe that you're all great, amazing people, I also believe that everyone in this room at some point has probably discriminated against or been mean to someone. All right? So when you think about that, and you think about somebody showing you love and compassion when they talked to you about it, it could have been a teacher, it could have been a friend, maybe it was your parents or some other adult in your life. And think about why it is that they showed you that compassion. Did they have to? That's it. I want to end that portion by having folks just consider, how did it feel when somebody was compassionate and loving with you? When you did something that a lot of people would say is something wrong, right? When you were mean to somebody, you treated someone differently, you did that action of discrimination, and somebody came to you with love and compassion. How did that make you feel? And how different does that make you feel than somebody attacking you and telling you you suck? I do this work because it's about being whole, and I think love and compassion are a piece of my wholeness. I'm going to read this piece that a colleague of mine wrote recently. I move through the world in fragments, tripping over parts of myself along the way. As each fragment jockeys for recognition, validation, and acceptance, I learn to quiet their clamoring voices like a nervous parent tries to quiet an exuberant child calling too much attention to itself. I contort my pieces to fit into spaces that were clearly not meant for me. The discomfort means I cannot stay long. I do a mental roll call to ensure all my fragments are accounted for and none have been left behind. A comrade asks, who would you be in a world without oppression? I answer, whole. So it's my life's work to make positive social change, to challenge oppression, because I want everyone to be able to be whole. Can I see by a raise of hands how many folks have felt like at some point you weren't able to be all of yourself? You weren't able to do something that you felt like you should be able to. You felt picked on or teased, just like you didn't fit in, right? Just about every hand is up. Maybe every hand, there might be some that are low, right? So it's a common thing. How many people would like to just be able to be your full selves and celebrated for being you? Yeah, right? So I do this work from that framework and from that standpoint, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to hold that love and compassion for others, because I think the more of us that do this, the better we'll get at making social change. So this starts with an airplane. I've been traveling a lot for work. This was a few years ago. I was on my way to the White Privilege Conference, and I was excited. I get really excited when I go to the White Privilege Conference. A woman next to me on the airplane asks where I was going or what was going on, and I said, I'm headed to WPC. It's this conference that works to deconstruct racism and white supremacy. I work as an anti-oppression consultant, and I deliver a bunch of workshops there. I get very excited. I tell everyone I'm on my way there, right? All along the road. The woman replies, you know, I think the problem with black people is how many people are feeling love and compassion for this woman on the airplane? It's a real tough thing, you know? Like, I'm like, what the? Fill in the blank with a lot of words that I probably shouldn't say right here, right now. But that's what rolls through my head. I got this little person up here, this little baby, like some side eye, looking like, are you serious? Right? So let me tell you the rest of what happened, and I'm going to unpack a little bit of how I actually handled this. So she says, you know, I think the problem with black people is that they don't care about education for their children. Right? I had a lot of feelings. I got mad. I felt sad. And then I just started feeling a general some kind of way. There were a lot of feelings that came up in me. I wanted to cuss this woman out. If I was not on an airplane, I wanted to like get up and walk away. I couldn't even do that. I was at the window seat even, like she had me trapped. So I took a breath and I did my best to unpack this with her, because I realized that by getting mad at this woman, I wasn't helping anyone. I wasn't helping her, and I wasn't helping black folks. I wasn't helping the people in my life that I love and that I care about. So the first thing I did was prepared myself for the conversation. Checked in with my feelings, right? All those feelings that came up when you're like, oh my God, did she just say that? Seriously, what? Angry, I hate you, I want to hit you, I want to jump out the airplane, I want to throw you out of the airplane. And I breathed, and breathing is so important, right? I took a breath, and when I let that breath out of my mouth, this was all pretty fast, I said to the woman, tell me more. Which sounds like a scary question to ask, but I'm asking folks to trust me that this question is actually amazing and it's useful. And even when you're feeling a little bit agitated, it still comes across like you actually want to hear more, right? If I say, what did you mean by that? But I'm like upset, I'm like, what did you mean by that? Right? Or like, what did you mean by that? Like a lot of different tones can come out. But with tell me more, it's like, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. Like it still sounds like give me a little more information. So I did that, I let her speak. And in that time, she told me about education and how important she thought education was to success. How many folks feel like education is a key or a gateway to being able to be successful? It's not the only one, and I think that's important, but I think it is a key, right? I hope folks feel that. I mean, you're here at SA, and it costs money to be here, I think, right? Like, there's some commitment there, right? So in that, she was going on and on about how education is important, and I nodded and I heard her, and this is important. When you ask someone to tell me more, it's a chance for you to calm yourself a bit. And that's what I did. I breathed and I listened and I listened and I breathed, and I sort of got myself in check. Ask permission to share feedback, and this can come at various points, right? For me, I didn't share feedback immediately. I found something to agree with. I said, you know what, I totally agree with you. I think education is a key to success. In my life and in my space, I grew up in a working class and poor family. My mother is an immigrant from another country who, when she was growing up, literally had one pair of clothes. And she came to the US, and all she wanted for me was success. She wanted me to be able to be more, do more, to have the American dream. And education was big for her in that. And education became big for me. And so I said to the woman, I understand that education is important. I wouldn't be on this plane right now if I didn't have a master's degree. People wouldn't be inviting me to Sonoma Academy, probably. Even if I said all the same things, there's something about that piece of paper that gives you access. And then I said, you know, the black folks I know, though, they do care a lot about education. And I said, if you don't mind, can I share a little bit of feedback? Something about getting consent is huge. If you say to somebody, do you mind if I share feedback, and they say no, then don't, because they're not listening. Right? Do it in a kind way, but like, hey, do you mind if I share? And she said, okay. And I said, you know, when you said that about black folks, it hurt my feelings, because I know how hard my friends, my community works so that they can have education for their kids, because they already know things are stacked against them. Right? And this continued into a much longer conversation. The suspending judgment, I don't think you intended it this way, right? I don't think you meant any harm when you made that statement. I think you were just showing an observation. You seem like a good person, and I'm trusting that in you. Something about giving people this out, that little piece of, I'm not calling you a terrible person, just that little thing, I think opens up space. Right? It made it so that the woman didn't just shut down. So there's two people now that haven't shut down. I pushed myself through, I stayed in it, and now I'm trying to make sure that she stays in it, because my mission in life is to move through the world helping more people see these things. Make space for I don't know, and let me think about that. There were points in the conversation where she asked me questions I didn't know the answer to. I think that young people are so much better at this than adults. I think that students are way better at this than teachers. But just being able to say, you know what, I don't know. And I gave that response a few times. She was like, well, what about, this, that, or the other? And she was laying out possibilities. And I said, I don't know. Or let me think about that. And then I spoke more from my personal space and perspective. In all this, you remember that angry baby that happened to me, and then the sad baby and all the feelings happening. There is a piece of performance to this, and that is this performance actually gets better with practice. So I'm just going to put those two up together. In this performance, in being a star performer, the biggest thing that I think most people have a hard time controlling is tone of voice. Have you ever heard somebody say, "No, I'm actually being calm"? Did you believe them? No. Right? So when we get in that space, when we get triggered, when we get activated, our adrenaline comes into our body. Fight or flight response. Y'all know about fight or flight response. The adrenaline comes in, our muscles prepare, everything starts going faster, our voice starts getting faster because our voice and our muscles and our diaphragm and in our vocal cords, and suddenly we're pitched up to this kind of an area and we don't even know what's happened. And all you have to do is speak softer, slower, or lower. And that's just a life tip in general, right? As you're doing public speaking, as you're in other situations where folks, are feeling triggered or activated, or that adrenal level is up, actually just speaking softer, slower, and lower. And it works. It's real. It's something that you can do. It's something that is tangible. And there's a funny thing about it. It's actually really hard to speak slowly and keep this same volume and pitch. It doesn't feel normal, right? So when you speak slower, it actually will bring the volume with it. It'll bring the pitch with it. And it's a key that you can do. Practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing. Talk to parents, friends, neighbors, family, community, strangers every single day. Bell Hooks is awesome, and this is what she has to say. Without an ethic of love shaping the direction of our political vision and our radical aspirations, we are often seduced in one way or another into continued allegiance to systems of domination, imperialism, sexism, racism, classism. I conclude that many of us are motivated to move against domination solely when we feel our self-interest directly threatened. Often then, the longing is not for a collective transformation of society, an end to politics of dominations, but rather, simply, for an end to what we feel is hurting us. Until we are all able to accept the interlocking, interdependent nature of systems of domination and recognize specific ways each system is maintained, we will continue to act in ways that undermine our individual quest for freedom and collective liberation struggle. So what I'd like to leave folks with is a consideration of and a goal and a task. In the next 24 hours, in the next week, to actually try this. Assuming that you care about the well-being of your community, of your friends, of your family, of your neighbors, of the people in this room, which is a big assumption that I'm making. Try this on because you all actually do hold the key to making social change. That is all I have for you. Thank you all so much.